Castlevania Bloodlines is an exciting Castlevania spin-off designed from the ground up for the Sega Genesis. Developer Konami had created some of the most popular franchises on the NES, and during the 16-bit console wars of the 1990s, they wanted to bring some of these over to the Sega Genesis. Legal agreements with Nintendo and significant differences in hardware could make it difficult to simply port a Super Nintendo game to the Genesis, so Konami often designed exclusive games just for Sega's console, including Contra Hard Corps, Tiny Toon Adventures Buster's Hidden Treasure, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Hyper Stone Heist. Castlevania was no exception. The Sega Genesis was known for its fast processing speed, so the design team wanted to create a game that had faster action but still felt authentically like Castlevania. The game was produced by Tomokazu Kirita, who had previously worked on Rocket Knight Adventures, so he was no stranger to the action genre. He would go on to be the producer for Contra Hard Corps and fan favorite Snatcher for the Sega CD. Leading both programming and scenario writing was Toshiki Yamamura, who had previously done programming for the NES versions of Rampart and Batman Returns. Yamamura was excited to take the Castlevania franchise to new places. He had noticed that previous games in the series were all located in and around Dracula's castle, but because he was creating a spin-off, he could take the player all around Europe, even visiting some real-world places like the Palace of Versailles in France and the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy. The development team struggled to fit everything into an 8-megabyte cartridge, so the final game is on the shorter side with only 6 stages. To increase replay value, a second character, Eric Lacard, was added. Eric uses a spear instead of a whip and has an all-new set of moves and animations. The Japanese version, called Vampire Killer, is easier than the one released in North America. In fact, the normal difficulty on Bloodlines is equivalent to the Expert mode on Vampire Killer, and the Expert mode on the North American version is a special, extra spicy difficulty. It was not uncommon during this time to release a more difficult version of the game for Western audiences. Having a video game rental store was not a legal business model in Japan, and there were concerns that players in the United States wouldn't buy a game if they could easily finish it during a rental. The game may have been made more difficult for the North American release, but unlike previous games in the series, this one is uncensored and features all kinds of cartoonish, pixelated blood. Nintendo had firmly established itself as a family-friendly brand in the United States, but Sega had earned a reputation as the console for mature gamers interested in a more edgy experience after the controversy concerning the Genesis version of Mortal Kombat that featured the infamous blood code. On the other hand, the European version was censorship city. They took the blood out of the game so hard that they even removed it from the title, renaming the game Castlevania: The New Generation, because having blood in a vampire game was going a little bit too far. Composer Michiru Yamane had done music for Nemesis and Fall of the Foot Clan on the Game Boy, but Bloodlines was her first Castlevania game. Inspired by the classical works of Johann Sebastian Bach, Yamane's score for Bloodlines is one of the best soundtracks on the Genesis. She would go on to do the music for Castlevania Symphony of the Night. The game was well received when it released in North America in March of 1994. While some could argue that it was inferior to Super Castlevania IV on the Super Nintendo, Genesis owners were happy to get a Castlevania game just for them. Also, Super Castlevania 4 had been released in 1991, about 3 years before Bloodlines, so fans of the series in general were excited to finally get a new game on a major console. In modern times, players and critics still appreciate Castlevania Bloodlines for its interesting European locations and fast-paced gameplay. When Complex released their list of the top 100 Sega Genesis games of all time, they ranked Castlevania Bloodlines at number 47. If you'd like to play Castlevania Bloodlines on a modern platform, it was included as part of the Castlevania Anniversary Collection. It was also one of the games preloaded on the Sega Genesis mini console, and as of this recording, it's even included with the expansion pack add-on to the Switch's online service. Modern players that attempt this game will still have to deal with all of the challenges retro games are notorious for. Just like in many other Castlevania games, there are tons of instant death pits, and if you get hit by an enemy, you could be knocked back into one. Every stage has at least 2 bosses for you to fight, and you only get 2 continues, so if you die one too many times, it'll be game over. But what if I told you how to complete all 6 stages with both characters? What if I showed you a secret code that can unlock the expert mode and let you start with 9 lives? And what if I showed you the best way to defeat every boss, even Count Dracula himself? Well, on today's episode of You Can Beat Video Games, we'll learn all of that and more. If you're new to the channel, we're doing deep dives on retro video games and giving you the professional strategies that can be used by the casual gamer. Please make sure to subscribe and check out youcanbeatvideogames.com for episode lists, news, and official You Can Beat Video Games merchandise. And please join our Patreon for access to an exclusive Discord community and a chance to vote on future episodes. This episode was suggested and voted on by members of our Patreon community. Let's get started. Alright, Castlevania Bloodlines. If we don't press any buttons as the game loads up, we'll see a short cutscene that explains the story. You see, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but the ancestors of the Belmont family are doomed to confront the power of evil incarnate, Dracula. You know, now that you say it out loud, that does sound familiar. This time, an evil countess named Elizabeth Bartley is attempting to resurrect Dracula. And when I say she's evil, well, part of her plan involves starting World War I so that she can use the souls of the fallen to revive the Dark Lord. So yeah, I would certainly call that evil. 2 young vampire hunters set out to fulfill their destiny. Let's go. Well, before we jump into the game, let's talk about a few secret codes. If you open up the options menu, you'll notice there are only 2 difficulties you can select, and you can choose up to 5 starting extra lives. However, there's a way to change that. Down here at the bottom, there's a sound test, and if you set the background music BGM to 5 and the sound effects SE to 73 and then exit the menu, and when you get back to the menu, you want to enter the classic Konami code after the screen fades out and fades back in. So you enter up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A, and you'll hear a sound if you did it correctly. Now when we go back into the options menu, you can select the expert difficulty if you want, and you can choose up to 9 starting lives. But that's not all. Whenever you have the maximum power of your weapon, if you'd set those sound effects to the exact numbers that you saw here in the video, you'll hear this different music track. Now, it will only last as long as you have your maximum power, so if you take any damage, it will turn back to normal. And you'll see that right there. So, interesting trick, but we're just going to use the default options, so we're going to choose normal difficulty with 2 extra lives, and we're going to select John Morris for our first run. Now, if you're wondering, who's John Morris? He's related to the Belmont family through Trevor. Trevor's daughter married a man with the last name Morris. Also, John's father is Quincy Morris from Bram Stoker's novel. In the book, Quincy Morris actually manages to kill Dracula with the help of Jonathan Harker, although he suffers a mortal wound and dies. So that's why the Vampire Hunter whip is in John Morris's family, and if we use it here at the beginning, you'll be able to whip some of these torches, and the first one you whip will contain a crest. The crest will power up your whip, and if you hit 5 more torches, you'll find another crest, which will make it longer. After you get the second upgrade, you'll need to hit 30 more candles to find another crest to get to maximum power. Keep in mind that the single candles that contain sub-weapons do not count towards the 30, and you don't have to collect the items that fall out. It's good enough to just hit the candle. The 30th candle will be replaced, so whatever item is in there will be replaced with a crest, so you may want to keep that in mind. It is possible that you could replace something good like a 1-up. In this room, we'll find a special item that you won't find anywhere else in the game. Whip this wall on the right to find the spell book. The spell book will randomly either give you 30 gems of sub-weapon ammo, or, as it did this time, it will give you the maximum power of your whip, which comes with this special sub-weapon. Be aware that if you pick up another sub-weapon, it will replace the special one, and if you get hit by any enemies, you will lose the maximum power of your whip, and you would lose the special sub-weapon if you still had it. The maximum power of your weapon is nice, but I'm not going to assume that anyone watching this will be able to carry it for very long, so you will not be required to have maximum power for most of the strategies in this video. Gems replace hearts in this game as the ammo for your sub-weapons. Blue gems are worth 5, while red gems are worth 1. All of your sub-weapons have 2 different modes. One when you just press the button, and a different mode that requires more ammo if you hold up while pressing it. Our first boss here is the Hellhound. If you see it breathing fire, you want to back away, but if it's howling, you just want to whip it rapidly and try to avoid the falling glass if you can. Make sure to whip its corpse one last time so that it burns away, and you'll be able to move on. In this room, we'll get our first taste of the classic Castlevania health item, wall meat. Yeah, delicious wall meat is here on the Sega Genesis. It's in the conspicuously broken looking wall on the right side. Be aware that while items in candles will respawn if you return to the room they were in, items that were in walls will not respawn, so once you collect something that was in a wall, it's gone. In this area, we'll encounter another classic Castlevania enemy, the Bone Pillar. Whenever you see these bone pillars, you want to stand just far enough away so that you can hit them with your whip, and you want to start with the one that's on your level and take out all of the upper bone pillars before ducking down and taking out the bottom one. This rotating platform can deal you quite a bit of damage if you touch the spiked side, So wait until it flips over, quickly jump onto the smooth side, and immediately jump off. If you jump up here, you'll be able to see this skeleton with a shield, and you can attack it through the platform. You do not need to hold a diagonal direction to whip upwards. If you just hold up, whenever you jump and whip, you will whip up and at an angle in the direction that you're facing. This will be especially useful to know whenever we need to do some Spider-Man swings with our whip. Up here, simply walk across these platforms. If you jump on them, they'll flip over. Don't jump, and you won't have any problems. There's a blue gem above us, but to collect it, we'll need to jump and hold up as we whip, and then hold down the attack button so that we'll attach to the ceiling like Spider-Man, and you'll be able to swing to a position where you can collect it. Jump over that pendulum as it's moving to the left. It can actually kill the enemies if they run into it. Before we head out of here, you may have noticed that there's a broken wall directly above the exit, and if we smash that wall, we'll find another wall meat. Yum! In the next room, we'll need to keep jumping to the right to get across these breaking bones. Try to collect the candle in the middle. It contains a 1-up, and if you fall to your death while jumping across the bones, if you collected the 1-up, it will respawn. Stand back from this bone dragon and attack it with your whip, and then climb up the stairs to enter the boss's area. You can actually go back down the stairs if you need to farm for items. We're not going to do that for now. We already have a maxed out powered whip, and we have the boomerang weapon, which is going to be very good against the armor battler. This guy does not have very good range, so if you use your sub-weapons and attack from far away, it will be hard for this thing to deal you damage. If you don't have a lot of sub-weapons, you want to get just far enough away to attack it with your whip, and if you see it make a move to attack you, you can just back up a little bit and you'll be safe. Whenever its arms fall off, watch out for its charging attack. If it comes charging at you, you'll need to jump up onto one of the platforms on the side and then jump over it. And with that, we've cleared the first stage. Now on to stage 2. Before we move forward, we can write down our password. Be aware that your password does remember how many lives and continues you have, so if you lose a lot of lives in the early levels, it could come back to bite you later. One nice thing about this game is that the checkpoints are very generous, and you'll even come back to the same checkpoint you were on if you use a continue, so your lives are very valuable in this one. Attack the minotaurs here from afar before jumping onto the platforms that they're standing on. You need to be careful that you don't get knocked into the water. It's instant death. Right after the spot where you find the holy water, there are 2 slanted platforms that look safe at first glance, but merfolk pop out here, so make sure to watch out for them as you walk through. In this area, we need to make a vertical climb, and the water will chase us on the way up. Just touching the water won't hurt you, but if it gets up over your head, you'll take massive damage and it won't be long before you die. So you do want to climb up fairly quickly, and you can go off the screen, but usually you don't want to go so far that you can't see your feet anymore. Except for in this area right here. If you head over to the left very quickly, you can attack to the right and make a 1-up drop. Then you can drop down by jumping while on the stairs, collect the 1-up, and you can climb back up the stairs before the water gets you. You want to head over to the left in this area where you can find a boomerang, and we are going to use that on the next mini-boss, so I do recommend picking it up. And once you get up here, you don't have to worry about the water anymore. It will stop and it won't go any higher. So once you get to that platform, you can take your time and climb up to the next level. Up here, we'll fight our first mini-boss of this stage, the Rain Mage. This is the basic way that you can fight the Rain Mage. Whenever you get close to him or you hit him with your whip, he will teleport to an area behind you, so you just need to keep going back and forth across the screen. The Rain Mage will try to raise the water level up over your head, but if you defeat him quick enough, it won't be a problem. And once you get over here, it's time to fight another mini-boss, the Twin Armors. The first of the Twin Armors is this yellow guy that attacks with a Morning Star, and you want to get fairly close to this guy and attack with your whip while crouching. Whenever he attacks with the Morning Star, it will go over your head, so you just need to watch out for his jumping attack. Once he's defeated, you have to fight the Purple Twin Armor. This one starts over on the left side. All you need to do to beat this guy is jump towards him while attacking and then quickly run the other direction to avoid his counterattack. Keep doing that and watch out for his jump attack, and he'll go down quite quickly. Now there is another way to beat the Rain Mage. If you stand in this spot and throw a boomerang and then quickly run over to this position, you can get him to appear behind you, and you can just keep jumping and attacking in the same spot to quickly eliminate him. There's a trick for the Twin Armors as well. If you have the axe, you want to walk over towards the middle of that fountain, release 3 axes by holding up and attacking, and then you quickly turn back to the left. If you did it correctly, you'll despawn the yellow boss, and you won't have to fight him at all. And then you just have to get rid of the purple armor, and you can easily move on. Nice. Don't drop down too quickly in this area. Wait for the water to drain out for a moment, and then drop down onto the floating platforms. It wouldn't be a Castlevania game without Medusa heads, so get ready to deal with them here. They move in their typical sine wave pattern, so they are somewhat predictable. You can try to attack them, or just try to dodge out of the way. Over on the left side here, you can find a boomerang. In order of preference, I think the axe is my favorite of the 3 sub-weapons, followed by the boomerang, followed by the holy water. The holy water isn't bad by any means, I just don't think it's as good as the other 2. Once you get to this spot, we're almost at the end. Drop down to the bottom and make your way out to the right. Look out for the Medusa heads though, they will just keep spawning until you get out of here. In this room, we'll encounter some enemies that have helmets. You can hit them in the helmet, but it usually just drives them backwards. That can be an effective strategy, but for the most part you want to duck down while fighting those guys. Hit the head off of this statue and make your way to the right. We're just going to wait for this guy to jump into a hole, and then we'll continue onwards. Over here we'll encounter a bone pillar. We're going to stop in this spot to remove the 2 pillars, and then you want to make this bone dragon appear and walk back over here to the left. Attack the bone dragon from that spot, and then hit this pillar to knock it off to the right. Continue in this direction, waiting for this guy to drop down, and you can duck to attack him. From this position right behind the pillar, you can easily remove those 2 bone pillars, and we're going to drop down here, take out that guy, and then we're going to open this wall on the left, where we'll find some delicious wall meat. Continue on to the right, we're going to duck down and take out another helmeted monster, and we'll continue down here, where if we run to the right, that guy will jump over you, and you can turn back around to the left and finish him off. Wait until that guy is walking back to the right, then drop down, and you need to quickly make your way across that falling ruin, because it will drop down off screen. There are certainly faster ways of dealing with this bone pillar formation, but if you attack them and then crouch down until they stop spitting fire, and then jump up there and attack them again, you can get past them without taking any damage. You can attack straight downwards in this game if you jump up in the air and attack while holding down. That's a good way to get rid of those minotaurs below you so that you can drop down here safely. You can find a boomerang over on the right side, but for this next boss, I highly recommend the axe. Do not walk off this platform into the water. If you have the axe, when you get about halfway down the screen, you can hold up and start releasing 3 axe volleys to tear up the boss's body. Jump and hold up as you attack so that you can whip up and at an angle at the boss. You want to try to hit as much of its body at once as you can. Whenever it releases rocks from the ceiling, try to avoid them if possible. Whenever it gets down to about this height, you should be able to hit it in the face with your whip. That's how you'll damage the boss. As John, you would ideally not destroy the boss's entire body and just hit the face instead, because whenever you destroy too much of the body, it gains that move, which will vault you up into the air. If you do destroy too much of the boss and you see it doing the jumping attack, you can jump right before it lands on the ground so that you won't get launched into the air. As an alternate strategy, don't be afraid to throw a lot of axes at this guy's face if you have a lot of gems available. And once you collect the red gem, stage 2 is history, and we'll be on to stage number 3. Stage 3 is the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and I would love to see a cutscene of how we are actually making this travel. We just went right across the Adriatic Sea and then through the Apennine Mountains. Is that even the best way to get to Pisa? Bad news, Italy fans. This place is downright infested with harpies. It's like a birdemic up in here. To fight these guys, you want to jump and hold up as you attack so that you whip upwards at an angle. The harpies continuously spawn, so make sure that you're pushing your way to the right as you're fighting them. Occasionally, whenever you hit a harpy, there's a random chance that its head will explode. If its head explodes, it will shower the area in blood, and you'll need to hit that harpy a second time. This often causes the game to lag a little bit, and while it's only a minor annoyance, it is an actual advantage to the cleaned up European version. I guess that much pixelated blood is just a little bit too much for the Genesis to handle. So much for blast processing. And then we come to this room that features a bunch of stairways. Start out by clearing the peeping eye on the left side, then hurry up the stairs until you get almost to the top, and then you want to jump straight up into the air, and you'll land down at the bottom where you'll find an invincibility crystal. Then you want to work your way up to this spot where you can quickly clear out the bone pillars, and we'll head over here to the far left where we'll be able to find a blue gem. Not bad. Now we'll make our way across the top, and we'll take out another peeping eye at the end, and head over to the exit. This room has 2 exits, and we'll have to take the lower exit as John. We'll take the other exit later when we play through the game as Eric. It seems like you're not supposed to be able to collect those candles, but with a well-placed whip shot, you can get them. We'll collect what we can and head through to the right, and in this room, you want to stand near the edge, jump, hold up, and whip, and you want to hold down the whip button so that you stick to the ceiling and Spider-Man swing across to the right. Do the same thing here, but make sure to jump a little bit to the right first, and make your way across. In this room, we're going to fight a very easy mini-boss. Go back to this position, jump, hold up, and attack the dragon when he goes towards you. Wait for him to breathe fire, and then when he comes back out again, you're going to hit him in the face. Just be patient with this guy. Wait for him to breathe the fire, and then when he comes back, you'll jump and hit him. If you want to use your axes to finish the job, you can, but if you just stay in that one spot, you should be fine. And that takes us to the actual Leaning Tower portion. You can fall off the bottom of the screen and die here, and the knockback from the Medusa heads is a very real danger. So what you want to do is try to climb up to the highest position available at all times. That way, if you do get bumped by a Medusa head, you'll likely fall down and land on a lower platform, which will give you the opportunity to climb back out. If you're down at the bottom when you get hit by a Medusa head, there's a good chance that you'll fall to your death, so try to climb up as high as you can, and make sure to collect the one up on the right side as you work your way to the top. When you hit the candles with your whip in this area, the items will drop to the bottom of the screen, so you want to be right on top of the candles whenever you hit them. And that brings us to the mummy room. The mummies will throw bandages at you, but you can whip through the bandages, so it's not actually that big of a deal. The bats that attack you in this area may actually be more dangerous. Just try to stay as far away from the mummies as you can, attack them from below when possible, and you should be able to get through this room unscathed. Sadly, the Italian architects did not build a single wall meet into the Leaning Tower of Pisa, so you do need to be very careful about your health in this stage. Work your way over here where you can collect an axe, and when you get to the top of the stairs, this is a scary platforming section. It actually looks a lot more dangerous than it is. At the beginning, you're just going to keep jumping to the left, take out the gargoyles whenever they stop circling you, and start moving towards your position. Be careful that you don't jump off the left edge. When the platforms start moving upwards, stay in the middle and keep hopping to the highest position. As the gargoyles circle you, they'll eventually stop and then move towards your position. That's when you should stop and attack them with your whip, and just keep hopping to the top of the stack. Eventually, the platforms will start moving to the right. This is the most dangerous section. Just like before, you want to stop and attack the gargoyles whenever they stop and start moving towards you. You don't want to get hit by a gargoyle here because you can get bumped in such a way that you'll fall between the platforms and end up falling to your death. So just keep hopping up to the right, and whenever you see a gargoyle moving towards you, stop and attack it. When you get to this spot, we're almost to the boss, so just collect any power-ups that you need, and it's time to face the red gargoyle. We need to contend with this rotating platform that we're standing on, and that's probably your biggest challenge. When you see the boss hovering on the side, it will throw rocks at you, and that's a good opportunity to attack it. Whenever it flies slowly in, it's going to do a tail whip. You'll have an opportunity to attack it, but then you want to be on the other side of the screen so that you don't get hit by the tail. Whenever it flies up from the middle the second time, it's about to do its final attack. It will start trying to drop on top of you, and you just want to move away from it and strike it as it drops down. It won't take very much to defeat the red gargoyle, and as long as you don't fall off the platform, you should be fine. And just like that, we're halfway through the game. Of course, that was the easier half of the game, and it will get a little bit more challenging from here. We'll jot down another password, and then we'll make our way into the heart of Germany, where we'll infiltrate a skeleton-infested munitions factory. In the first part of this stage, we're going to be in front of a fence where skeletons are throwing bones at us, and if you wait long enough, they'll jump over the fence and come after you. so you want to keep moving to the right and make sure to attack any skeletons that pop out of garbage cans like Oscar the Grouch. You may have to turn around occasionally to clean up the skeletons that are chasing you, but you want to mostly keep moving to the right. Keep moving right and it won't be long before we can say Auf Wiedersehen to the garbage can skeletons and make our way inside the factory. In here, there are a couple of skeletons that you'll want to attack from below before you ascend the stairs. You need to kill each one of these skeletons twice before they'll actually be gone. Grab these candles on the right side and get rid of that skeleton with the sword, and then we're going to head back to the left where we'll be able to find a hidden 1-up. So right past the holy water, if you jump, hold up, and hold down your whip, you will be able to grab onto the ceiling and swing over to the right, and then if you hop up here, you'll find the hidden extra life. This 1-up will respawn if you die and have to come back through here, so make sure to pick it up every time. If you remove this skeleton and head up here, we can break this wall to find a hidden roast. So eat that wall meat and then make your way down the stairs. Be aware that the wall meat will not respawn if you die, so you'll only be able to collect it once. Wait until this skeleton stops spinning his mace, hurry in and get in a few hits, and if it seems like he's starting up again, you may want to back off and use a sub-weapon. Head through the door, and on the other side, we want to quickly get rid of this skeleton with a shield. So start attacking as soon as you get through the door, and then we're going to head over here to the right to get rid of this skeleton. The first 2 of these conveyor belts will push you to the right, but the third one pushes you back to the left, so as soon as you jump onto it, do another jump to the right so that you don't fall off the edge. Jump over just after this skeleton finishes its attack and hit it 3 times. Then if you're brave, you can drop off of the conveyor belt and whip over to the right to find a hidden 1-up. This 1-up is hidden in a wall, so it won't respawn if you die and come back. You can see how to get back up on the conveyor belts, it's not actually that difficult, and once you're done you can make your way into the piston room. The pistons don't look that dangerous, but if they smash you against the wall, it's instant death, and you can't just drop down through platforms in this game, so it's not as simple as it may seem. This is the trickiest part here. You want to jump onto this platform and then do a small jump upwards so you can see the piston above you. Make sure it's moving to the right before you start going up the platforms. And that will take you to the top. Before we move on, there is a trick we can do in this room, and I'm going to attempt it before we move on. If you jump and throw an axe, it's possible to clip into the ceiling here. So you want to start in this position, and as soon as the piston covers that platform on the right, you want to jump, throw the axe, and then press to the left. If you do it correctly, you'll go into the wall, and you can actually clip all the way up to the top of the room. I kinda got it that time, but if you're interested in this trick, make sure to check out the Eric run that follows this one. The skeletons in this room only need to be killed a single time. They collapse into a pile of bones and it looks like they might reanimate, but they won't, it's totally safe. The Medusa heads are annoying here, but at least if you get hit and knocked down to a lower section, you won't instantly die as long as you don't fall below the big gear at the bottom of the room. The skeletons that you killed won't respawn either, so if you do fall down to the bottom, it's not that big of a deal to climb back up. Of course, you will have to deal with the Medusa heads the entire time. There's really no escaping those. So just keep working your way to the top, and when you see these 2 gears next to each other, you're almost there. There's an axe on the right side of the big gear, but there's another one in the next room, so I don't think it's worth getting. Instead, just make your way over to the stairs and climb on up. The first thing you want to do in this room is walk over to the right to make this ghost spawn. That guy is really annoying, and if you just take him out now, you won't have to deal with him later. This room features a bunch of scale lifts, which should feel familiar if you've played a Super Mario Bros. Game. You want to wait on the left side for a moment until the platform on the right is about at the middle or slightly above the middle, and then you want to quickly hop over. Don't wait too long, you can get stuck there. And that brings us to Frankenstein's monster. Wait on the left side until he finishes his first spinning whip attack, then get up next to him, crouch down and attack until he does his second whip attack, and then you want to get up on the platform to get out of the way of his 2 lightning punches. After that, you can sort of start the pattern over again, but it shouldn't take too much more to kill that guy. You can see there's a new trap in this room, the Wheel of Death. Carefully move under it. You do not want to touch that thing, it will deal you serious damage. These enemies ideally you would want to hit out of the air, but if they do get down on the ground, crouch and try to attack them before moving on. You can quickly get under the second Wheel of Death, but this third one is tricky. Here's what you need to do. Move into it and quickly crouch down. Wait for the space to get over your head again, then move a little bit to the right and crouch again. Keep doing that until you get to the end of the wheel. That's really the only safe way to get through there. That brings us to the final part of this stage, but this section is far from easy. We need to navigate these moving platforms while dealing with the Morning Star skeletons. Ideally, you'll be able to hit each skeleton at least one time with a sub-weapon before jumping onto its platform, and that will soften the skeleton up so it won't take as many hits to kill them. If you don't have many sub-weapons to use, you want to jump towards the skeleton just as it finishes its attack so that you can quickly get 3 hits in. If you get hit by one of those skeletons, you could get knocked off a platform and end up in an instant death pit. This last one, if you have enough sub-weapons, can be hit by using your up boomerang power, and that's a good way to hit him before jumping onto the platform. That last skeleton is very dangerous. This is the last room before the boss. Hit the gear monsters to get them out of the way and collect as many candles as you can because it's time to face the gear steamer. The round orb in the center of the boss is its weak spot, and as the battle begins, you'll need to do a small jump to be able to reach it with your whip. But after you deal some damage to this guy, the orb will start moving downwards, and then it will be right on the level. The boss has numerous attacks depending on which phase of the battle it's in. If it starts lobbing gears at you, you just want to slowly back away, and if it throws gears at you in a straight line, you can hop up onto one of the platforms to avoid them. After each attack, there's a moment where the gear steamer stands still, so you'll have an opportunity to hit it at that time. And if you see it make a noise like this, you want to quickly crouch down and hit it or it will charge at you. When the boss is down to its final 5 bars of health, it will do this thing where it jumps and lands, and it'll give you an opportunity to hit it a couple times, but you want to back off so that you don't get hit by the arms. At this point, the boss is a good bit spread out, so it's a little bit harder to hit the orb, but just keep up the pressure and attack it whenever it stops moving, and you should be able to finish this guy off. And that's it. We've sent the gear steamer to the scrap heap. Watch as its pieces collapse onto the ground, and then grab the red orb to move on to the next stage. And that's it. We've finished stage 4. There are only 2 stages left now, so we'll make sure to jot down our password, and then we'll continue our trek across Europe because stage 5 is the Palace of Versailles in France. We start out in the palace gardens, and it's going to be a moment before we can find a wall meet, so you want to try to conserve your health through the beginning of this stage. So make your way to the first rose that you see, and you want to jump, hold up, and attack that tendril when it's up in the air. So make sure it's all the way curled up, and then you can attack it. And get up onto this platform where you can get rid of that rose that's dropping pollen. There's a tendril down below you, which you can remove with the holy water, and then we'll continue to the right. You won't take damage if you touch that pollen, but it will make your controls reversed, which can be annoying. It only reverses your left and right controls, up and down are unaffected, and it only lasts for a short amount of time. If you just get rid of the roses, you won't have to deal with that, and when you get to this platform, make sure to wait for those tendrils so that you can attack them with your whip before moving on. These red skeletons just keep getting back up after you kill them, so you want to take them out and then just keep moving right to get away from them. When you get over here, you need to be careful of this guy. Hit it with a boomerang and then move back to the white platform on the left. Then wait for it to stop and head back over to the right to finish it off. For these next few, you want to hit them and then move far back to the left. You can get into a good position here where you won't be able to be hit by the enemy, but if you jump, you'll be able to hit it as it's swinging. And you can do a similar thing to this last one. Hit it once, move back to the left, get to right about this spot, and you should be able to take it out safely. If you're not careful, those guys can deal a significant amount of damage to you. Watch out for the chandeliers here. You want to move forward enough for the chandelier to fall and then move back to the left so that you can avoid it. You can make the chandeliers fall on these axe knights, and if you do, it will kill them instantly. If you have to fight an axe knight without using the chandelier, get just close enough to hit it with your whip and crouch down. Keep whipping, and if it throws an axe at you, you should be able to clear it with your whip, and after a few strikes, the axe knight will burn away. Try not to get distracted by the axe knights and forget about the chandeliers. Keep looking at the ceiling so you don't miss a chandelier. You don't want to get hit by one of those. Make sure you're picking up the gems in this area, and make sure to grab this boomerang because there's an obnoxious enemy with a sword at the end of this hall, and we're going to use the boomerang to deal with it. That enemy is coming up shortly, so as soon as you see this guy, you're going to throw one boomerang, then you're going to do your up boomerangs, and then you'll crouch down and whip to get the last few hits in. That's the best pattern I found to deal with that guy. For this large set of bone pillars, you want to step right here in front of the third window and just start attacking. Whip rapidly and don't crouch down until you clear all of the upper bone pillars, then crouch down and take out the last one. And that will bring us to this room. As John, we're going to take the lower path here, but if we were playing as Eric, we would climb up this room and take the exit at the top. Whenever we get into the next room, we're going to need to swing across, so that's why there's two ways to go here. You won't be able to swing across when playing as Eric. Remember, you want to jump and attack the ceiling, and you just hold down your attack button to swing. Don't miss the hidden wall meat on the left, and if you're good at the Spider-Man swings, there are a bunch of candles you can collect in this zone. 3 of them actually contain blue gems, which is nice, and you won't need to swing all the way across to get that last one. There's another way that you can get it. Before we worry about that though, this enemy throws bombs at you, but that's not all it throws. Sometimes it throws skeletons, and if you're lucky, it will occasionally throw a roast. So we'll see if we can get the roast. There it is. And I wouldn't recommend waiting here for this thing to throw a roast at you unless you really need it. A lot of times you'll end up taking more damage than it's worth, but if you're in a pinch, that is something you can try. In this vertical shaft, I think the French engineers had the best intentions in mind when they installed this automatic staircase for accessibility purposes, but I don't think it turned out the way that they planned. The best way to climb the stairs is to just keep doing small hops to the right. The stairs will naturally push you to the left, so if you just keep doing little hops to the right and allowing the stairs to carry you back to the left, you can get to the top without much effort. Even if you do mess up and fall down to the bottom, you won't die, you'll just have to dust yourself off and try again. The gargoyles are a bit of a nuisance here, so attack them whenever they get close, and keep climbing those stairs. You're looking for an exit on the right, and you'll know that you found it when you get to the spot where the stairs start going in the other direction. It's very difficult to climb the stairs that are going the other way, so we'll cover that part of the stairwell whenever we play as Eric. The blue armor is actually quite easy. You just want to get close to it, crouch down, and start rapidly whipping its shins. Whenever it punches at you, it should go over your head, and the blue armor can do a jumping attack, but usually you'll kill it so fast that it won't have a chance to. These archers take more hits to kill than you might think. You want to hit them 2 or 3 times, and as soon as you see it draw back on the bow, back away to avoid 2 arrows, then move back in to get a few more hits. This guy with the hammer can be easily defeated by attacking down here below it. Don't get up onto the platform with the hammer guy, or you may get hit. If he does get very close to you, he can hit you with the hammer, but usually from that position you'll be safe. When you see this small platform, get ready to jump. Drop off the right side, turn back to the left, and hit this wheelchair knight 6 times in a slow rhythm. Then crouch down and attack this machine gun knight. He won't be able to shoot you if you're crouching. And that brings us to the silhouettes. Stand on this tile so you can whip 2 energy balls, jump and hit the 3rd energy ball, and then we're going to attack the pillar in the middle of the room as we clear out the 4th energy ball. It is extremely important that we clear all of the energy balls every time, or they will remain on the screen, and it's easier said than done. If you mess it up, you need to use sub-weapons, do whatever you can to clear that stray energy ball. So we did mess it up there, but we took care of the energy balls, and now we can go back to normal. So 2 on the ground, 1 in the air, hit the pillar and take out the last energy ball. Try to keep doing that pattern, and if you can nail it, you'll be able to defeat that boss. But the silhouettes are very difficult, and I would say they are much harder to defeat than the actual boss of this stage, which we're about to fight next. This next boss can fly, so you want to grab an axe on your way down to the bottom, and whenever you get to the level area, it will be time to face the Princess of Moss. The boss appears on the right side, and if you just keep whipping upwards over on that right side, you'll be able to trap her over there until she transforms into the moth. The moth has several attacks. Whenever it launches this pollen, you can clear the pollen with your whip, or you can just try to avoid it. If you get hit by it, it will deal you damage. It will not reverse your controls, although that would have been interesting. When it starts dropping eggs, if you can whip it as it's dropping the egg, you can avoid the egg falling down to the bottom where it will turn into a smaller moth. Just keep jumping and whipping this thing in the air, and it's really not that hard to beat. And once the princess is defeated, we'll be able to grab the 5th red gem, and we'll be on to the final stage. We'll have one last opportunity to get our password, and then we'll be on to the Castle Proserpina in England. If you've been stocking up lives and continues, you'll be happy that you had them here. We're going to have to face a bunch of bosses before we get out of this one. As we start the final stage, you'll be on this bridge, and you want to jump and attack the ravens. You definitely don't want those birds chasing you, and whenever you see the Medusa heads, you simply need to duck down to avoid their fireballs. So whenever you see one launch a fireball, duck underneath it, and just keep moving to the right. If you just take a slow and steady approach, you won't have any problems. Well, at least until the bridge explodes. You'll want to quickly get off of it at that point. The game is not malfunctioning. This is the Hall of Illusion, and there's a band of distortion that runs through the middle of the room that will make you appear to be in a different position than where you actually are. There's no enemies at the beginning of the room until you get right here, then the Medusa heads start. Get past that first Medusa head, jump straight up and attack to get a 1-up, then jump across to the next platform. You want to keep your eyes on John's feet. That will reveal your true position. Also, when you're completely in the distortion, just be aware that you're actually farther to the left than your character appears to be. If you just focus on your feet and make sure that you're doing full jumps to the right whenever you actually need to make a jump, you should be in pretty good shape. So we're going to come down here, walk to the edge of this platform, look at your feet, jump across to the right, jump across, and we're going to jump across one more time, and that will bring us to the upside down. In this room, your right and left directions are normal, but up and down are reversed, so you're going to technically be holding down to get on those stairs. This part is tricky. You want to just jump as quickly as you can to the right to get through here. Try to avoid those enemies, and don't get knocked off the platforms. If you just keep moving through there, you should be good, but if you don't have a lot of health left when you get to that section, you could be in danger. Once you get down here, you just need to get through one more Axe Knight and you'll finally be out of this room. So we'll grab another gem and make our way into 6-4, which is a much easier room to get through. This is the long hall. You just want to keep collecting candles in this room as you make your way to the right, and listen for clanking armor. That's the sound of it right there. The first one moves very slowly, but the next armors that you encounter will move faster. Whenever you hear one, you want to stop moving, look for which side it appears on, and attack it before you continue onwards. If you have stereo sound enabled, you should be able to hear which direction it's coming from, and that will help you as well. But as long as you just stop moving, you should be able to deal with the armors quite easily. And that brings us here to our first boss. If you need to power up, you can go back up and down that stairway to make the candles respawn, because it's time to face Death. Death is going to make an array of tarot cards appear, and if we wait for a moment, they'll slow down so that we can select whichever one we want. The ones that are numbered 2, 3, and 4 are bosses we have to fight, and they're slightly easier versions of bosses we've faced previously. I like to start with the gargoyle boss, which is number 3, because this is the only one where you can fall to your death and instantly die, so I like to get this one out of the way first. You'll notice that the bosses take a lot more damage from your attacks this time around, so it won't take as many hits to kill them. In fact, when we're here in the third phase of the gargoyle battle, it only takes 2 strikes from your whip to finish it off. And then we will reappear in the room with Death, and he'll show us the array of tarot cards again, although this time one of them will be blanked out. Keep in mind, if you need your health refilled, if you're playing on normal mode, there is 1 0 card that will give you meat. If you're playing on easy mode, there will be 2 0 cards, and if you're playing on expert mode, there won't be any. Well, now we're fighting the golem boss again, and this is one where you can take a good bit of damage if you're not careful. If you have the axe and a decent number of gems, I recommend just using the axe, then you can hit this guy without clearing much of the body. After taking out the gargoyle and the golem, there's only one more boss left in Death's Tarot card gauntlet, and that is the Gear Steamer, and that's the card that is numbered 4, or IV in Roman numerals. We don't really need the meat just yet, so we won't hit that card. We'll wait until we have a clear shot at card number 4, and then we will challenge the Gear Steamer. Don't be afraid to grab that 0 card if you're low on health. If you die while fighting any of these boss refights, all of the tarot cards will be reset and you'll have to play them again. The Gear Steamer has the same attacks that it did the first time we fought it, but because it takes damage much faster, it will progress through the phases of the battle much faster as well, so be prepared for that. Remember, you're going to hit it a few times here and then back off so you don't get hit by the arms, and then it shouldn't take much more to kill this guy, and once he's a clanking pile of scrap, we'll go back to the room with death, and now there's only a few cards left, and none of them are bosses. The cards with V on them are fireballs. Whenever you hit those cards, the Reaper will shoot a fireball at us, and these are very easy to avoid. You just need to keep moving. You do need to clear all of the cards in a single life, but if you clear all of the cards and then die when fighting the Reaper himself, that is a checkpoint and you won't have to do the cards again. So get ready to fight Death himself. He's going to go down on the left side and charge at you. You want to jump over him, hit him a few more times in the air, and when he goes down on the side of the screen to throw the scythe at you, he will suck you in, but that's a great opportunity to hit him multiple times. So that's when you can deal the most damage. And once Death is dead, we'll be able to move on to the next boss. Once again, you can go up and down these stairs if you want to keep collecting the candles so that you can power up your whip and collect extra gems. But now it's time to face off with Elizabeth Bartley, and first we have to battle her Medusa form. Get right in front of Medusa, crouch down, and start whipping. She'll spit 2 fireballs at you, and then she'll do her flamethrower attack, which will go right over your head if you're crouching. After that, she'll try to hit you with a tail whip, which you need to jump over. Back up a little bit because Medusa will try to charge at you, and then she'll start the pattern over again. So you just need to crouch down and start attacking, avoid those tail whips by jumping, and the rest of the battle should easily fall into place. But that's not the end for Elizabeth Bartley. It's time to fight her human form. The Countess will appear in the middle of the room and she'll summon several orbs. Then she'll teleport to one side of the room. You need to get close enough to her so that you can hit her with your whip, and then you can crouch down, whip her once, and wait for the fireball to go over your head. Then she'll disappear, and you want to wait for her to fully disappear, and then you can walk over to the other side of the room where she will reappear. You need to go right about to it's like a T looking thing on the floor. That's how you'll know that you walked far enough to hit her with your whip. Each time you hit the Countess, one of the orbs that she summoned will disappear. If you can clear an entire set of orbs, she'll take damage, but if you mess it up and one of the orbs remains when she goes back into the center of the room, that orb will explode and she won't take any damage at all. She'll just summon more orbs. Each type of orb does a different thing when it explodes, but as long as you concentrate, you should be able to hit her every time, and you won't have to worry about taking damage. By following this pattern, this boss is almost trivial to defeat, but I do want to show you what happens if you mess it up. So here's what happens if the sword orb explodes. It sends a bunch of knives at you. This boss may be easy to defeat on normal mode, but she can be very frustrating on expert mode. For the last orb of each set, you may need to hit her on the frame when she appears after teleporting, or she'll quickly disappear and go into the center of the room, and then you won't deal any damage and the orb will explode. So be ready for that. Just keep working at it, and eventually you will be able to defeat her on expert mode, but it is way harder than what you're seeing here on normal. With an ear-piercing scream, the Countess vanishes, leaving behind only her clothes. and even those eventually fade from existence. And with that, there's only one boss left. So make your way through this short enemy-free section, because it's about time to face Count Dracula. If you need to get powered up, you can go up and down these stairs to make the candles respawn, and I do recommend picking up the axe for this battle. It's much better than the holy water. The windows in the background flash a brilliant array of colors, and then in a pillar of light, Dracula appears. The basic strategy for Dracula's first form is to get fairly close to the pillar of light when it appears, and as soon as you see Dracula's red hair, you want to jump and attack him in the face. Make sure to hold down the whip button as you attack, because you may be able to deal a little more damage that way, and it should help you clear any fireballs that Dracula throws at you. I don't like to attack him when he appears on the far right side. I feel like I take damage a lot of the time when that happens, so I usually just go to the left to avoid him. It's important to conserve health through this part of the battle, because we still need to defeat 2 more forms of Dracula after this. So as soon as you see his red hair, jump and attack. And he only has 1 more bar of health left, so as long as we don't mess this up, yep, that's it. It's time for the second form. The second form is a smaller flying spirit, and it always flies up and then to the right. So it's going to come down on the right side at the beginning, and that's a good opportunity to hit it. And then it throws these 2 fireballs while staying still in the air, and that's another good opportunity to hit it. When it splits into multiple parts, you want to quickly try to hit one of them and then get underneath that one. And as soon as you see him transform into his 3rd phase, get over here on the right side of the boss. As soon as Drac fully materializes, you want to jump and hit him, then run over to the right side to avoid his projectiles. He'll fly towards you, and you want to run to the left, jump and attack him to push him back to the left side, then run back to the right side to avoid the projectiles again. Just keep doing this pattern until he turns red. Now he's going to spit fire at you whenever you hit him. You can jump and hit him back to the left corner, then you can crouch on the right side, and you should be able to avoid the fire. Now if it gets too far to the right, you'll have to jump over the fire, which is a little bit more difficult, but it can be done. When Dracula turns white, he'll start hopping around and throwing bones. You want to get under him when it gets too close to you. Try to avoid the bones, but don't forget to keep attacking. If you have axes available, throw some axes at him. It only takes a few more hits at this point to finish the boss, so you just need to take it across the finish line. And with that, the sun rises on the castle Proserpina, and we finally get the last gem. And that's it! We've done it! We've beaten Castlevania Bloodlines! All we can do now is sit back, relax, and enjoy the cheesy ending. In typical Castlevania fashion, we watch the castle crumble to the ground, leaving nothing behind. The resurrection of Dracula has been averted. Or at least I guess you could say it that way. What I would actually say is that Dracula was resurrected, and then we killed him again. And that brings us to the credits, but we're not going to get to that part of the ending right now. Whenever you get to the end of the credits, you'll notice that it says to try expert mode, and that's because you won't be able to get the true ending unless you play on the hardest difficulty. Now at the beginning of this video, I showed how you can use the Konami code to unlock expert mode, but you don't have to do that. If you can just beat the game and wait for it to reload, when you go back into the options menu, you'll see that the game has already selected expert mode for you. But we're not going to do expert mode just yet. There's a second character, Eric Lacard, so I think it's about time we played as him. Eric Lacard is also allegedly related to the Belmont family, but Ancestry.com did not have a lot of information about his lineage. Eric uses a spear instead of a whip, but it's just as effective at taking out vampires. It does work a lot differently though, and the differences will be what we focus on here. Something that you can do with Eric that you definitely can't do with John is charge up a super jump by holding down. Now, if you attack and hold the attack button down and then just wait for a while, it takes a moment, wait for it, eventually Eric will start standing in this aggressive pose. Doesn't do anything special, but it is interesting. While standing on the ground, Eric can attack straight upwards, and he can also attack upwards at an angle. This time you will need to hold the controller diagonally if you want to attack upwards at an angle. Eric has one other special technique that you should be aware of. If you attack and hold down the attack button, and then press the opposite direction that you're facing, you can keep doing this back and forth, and you'll be able to generate this spear fan attack, which looks pretty cool, but it's not particularly practical to use in the heat of battle. It's also worth noting that your super jump can damage the enemies, although it deals less damage than a direct spear attack. We'll grab the crystal ball for invincibility and make our way to the door. In this room, we could take advantage of Eric's special jumping ability to take a shortcut. Stand here and attack upward to get rid of the peeping eye, and then open up the wall that contains the spell book. Now if we crouch down where the spell book was, we can charge up a jump and leap to this upper platform, skipping the watery area below. The spellbook gave us our maximum power instead of giving us 30 gems this time, so you were able to see what the special magic does, and we're going to head through the door. Just like with John Morris, if you get hit by an enemy, you will lose your special magic and the highest power of your spear, and if you collect another weapon, like this holy water, you'll lose the magic, but you will keep the flame at the end of your spear until you get hit. Fighting the Hellhound with Eric is similar to fighting him as John. If the Hellhound is howling, you want to attack it rapidly and try to avoid the falling glass. If it's breathing fire, back away until the fire recedes, and then get in there and start spearing him again. Remember, you do need to do one last hit on its corpse to clear the boss. Once the Hellhound has been sent back to the underworld, make your way to the right, and in this room we'll be able to find some wall meat. It's a good idea to try to activate these skeletons and then go back down the stairs so that you can attack them from below. It's very easy to do as Eric because you can simply spear upwards. Once the skeletons are out of the way, hit the wall on the right side to grab some wall meat, and then make your way up the stairs. Take out the first skeleton on the right, and as you start walking to the right, turn back to the left so that you can attack a skeleton that pops up behind you. I'm not sure where that skeleton came from, but you do want to get him out of the way. Take out all the skeletons before heading up the stairs, jump across and stand right around this spot near the crack so that you can attack this bone pillar. You can actually hit 2 of the bone pillars at once. Once you've cleared those, you can head up the stairs, which will bring us to stage 1-7. One thing that you'll need to get used to as Eric is when you're jumping, you'll only be able to attack in front of you or below you with a down thrust type attack, but that's not something you'll be doing very often. So what you want to do as this character is try to stay on your feet most of the time and let the enemies come to you. Then you can attack up from under them and you won't have to do as much jumping. If you can clear the enemies from below, you'll be a lot safer. And something you can do in this area is go down to the bottom where we can collect the magic mirror, which will clear out the skeleton above, and then right below the stairs we can do a super jump and we can just skip those rotating platforms entirely. The blue gem on the ledge above was tricky to collect as John, but it's trivial to pick up as Eric. You just have to use a super jump to get up there. Something that I mentioned in the previous run but I didn't actually demonstrate is the way that you can use stairways to make candles respawn. Most doors in this game are a one-way path, but stairs are not. Most stairways you can go back up and down so that you can make all of those candles come back. This is definitely worth doing when you get close to a boss so that you'll be able to get the maximum power of your whip or spear. And don't forget about the wall meat up here. It's always nice to know where you can get a snack. Just like before, we're going to hop across the dinosaur bones and try to collect the 1-up and the candles along the way. What do you think happened that caused the dinosaur to die in such a way that its bones made such a perfect bridge? I got questions. Take out the bone dragon and climb up the stairs. Remember, you can go up and down the stairs if you need to so that you can collect some more candles. But at this point, we have over 60 gems and the maximum power of our spear, so I think we'll be fine against the armor battler. The armor battler always starts on the far right side, but it won't be long before it jumps over to the left. You want to attack this guy when you're just close enough to barely hit it with the tip of your spear, and if you see it make a move to attack, back up to avoid it. Whenever it loses its weapons, it could do a charging attack at you, so at this point I like to just rapidly attack it, and hopefully you can finish it off before it has a chance to charge. Once this thing falls apart, we'll be able to grab the gem, and that's it for stage number 1. Just like with John Morris, we'll get a password between stages, and these passwords are character specific, so whenever you use a password that you got with Eric, it will automatically choose Eric for you. You won't have a chance to choose your character after entering a password. The Atlantis shrine is up next, and I really like the design of this one. I appreciate the reflections that you can see in the water. I like the destructible environments in the later part of the stage, and I think that the color palette of the sunset in the background is nice. So I really like what they did here. Just like we did with John, you want to attack the minotaurs from across the platforms when possible, so don't jump over to a platform that contains a minotaur without taking it out first. And when you get to the end here, watch out for the merfolk that pop up before making your way to stage 2-2. This is the one that fills with water as it scrolls upward. And remember, it's okay to touch the water, you just don't want it getting up over your head. One nice thing about playing as Eric in an area like this is that if you do get behind and the water starts catching up to you, you could use a super jump to quickly vault up to a higher platform. Now, if you stay high up on the screen, you won't have to do much of that, but if you ever do get caught down at the bottom, that is a way to get out of it. Don't forget about the 1-up, which you should be able to get right here by jumping to the right and hitting it out of the air, and then quickly making your way back up the stairs. There's a boomerang that you can collect over on the left side, which was useful when we were playing as John, but we're going to use a different technique against the Rain Mage as Eric, so it's not as important to pick up this time. When you get to this platform, you've reached the top, so you don't have to worry about the water anymore. Just grab whatever gems you need and head on up the stairs. Run past the last pillar and turn back to the left, and then you're going to inch forward, quickly moving to the left after taking a step to the right until you end up underneath the Rain Mage. Then you can just keep attacking upwards and he will be stuck in one spot and won't be able to get out. It's kind of tricky to do, but once you get the hang of it, that is a very easy way to defeat the Rain Mage. And then it's time to fight the twin armors. Just like as John, you want to get close to these guys. You don't really even have to duck down against this one. Just stay pretty close and keep hitting him with the spear and watch for the jump attacks. You want to move out of the way so it doesn't land on you. For the second armor, the purple one, we're going to hit and move. So hit, move, hit, move. That's all you gotta do. Watch for a jump. You can do several hits after the jump, but try not to get hit by another axe at the end. And then we're just going to keep doing our hit and move routine. That should be enough to take this guy down. And once the twin armors are out of the way, we can head down the stairs and we'll be on to 2-4. Not too much different here. Remember to wait for a moment at the top and let some of the water drain out. You don't want to jump down onto the platforms when there's a whole bunch of water below you that you can get knocked into if you get bumped by a Medusa head. So it's worth it to just wait for a moment until some of it drains out. You're going to have to wait for the water to drain out anyways, so it's not like you're saving a bunch of time. If you want to boomerang, there's one over on the left side, but it's really not worth risking your life for. You may just want to wait until the water drains out and then drop down to this level. Down here we're almost to the bottom, so take out any Medusa heads that get in your way or just try to walk around them. They do fly in a predictable pattern, and if you've played Castlevania before, you may have a good understanding of how to navigate around them. And that's it, we're down at the bottom. Head over to the right and we'll be on to stage 2-5. This is essentially the last part of the stage. You want to crouch down whenever you're attacking these helmeted enemies so that you can hit them in the body instead of their helmet. You can hit them in the helmet if you want to push them around, but it's better to just hit them in the body and kill them. Wait for this one to jump into the hole and then move forward. And over here you're going to crouch right around this spot so that you can take out both pillars at the same time. Wait for this bone dragon to come towards you, don't go down below until you've finished him off, and then you'll be able to knock apart that piece of the ruins and jump on top of it. Continue to work your way to the right, wait for this guy and hit him in midair, and stand right about here on the left side of the pillar so that you can hit more of those bone pillars. We're going to get rid of this enemy and then we'll open up the wall that contains the wall meat. So make sure to get rid of that enemy first or he will get in your way. And once you have the wall meat, you can knock down that part of the ruins and continue to the right. As you make your way to the right, when you see this slanted platform, you want to run right towards that enemy who will jump over you, and then you can turn around and hit him. And you want to wait for this guy to move back to the right before you drop down. Quickly make your way across this platform that will sink down into the water. And then we're going to get rid of a few more bone pillars. We can wait for them to stop spinning fire so that we can clear them more easily. Just wait for them to stop, and then we'll jump up and take them all out at once. As Eric, I have a foolproof way of defeating the boss of this stage. You want to keep collecting candles until you have the maximum power of your spear and the special magic. To do that, you can go up and down these stairs to make the candles respawn. Just don't drop down below into the area with the minotaurs. You can get damage down there, although if you do fall down there, you could use your super jump to get back up. Just stay up on the top and keep going until you get that special magic. Once you have the special magic, do not hit any more candles that have sub-weapons in them, so don't hit any of the single candles, and we can use the special magic to easily remove the minotaurs at the bottom. We do want to have a lot of gems for this, so if you need to farm a few more, you could go up and down the stairs a couple more times. But here's the gist of what we're going to do. While we're on the platform, we're going to just keep spamming our special magic, and this just wrecks the boss. So just keep mashing the button, and you should be able to defeat the golem by the time you reach the bottom of the screen. It's really that easy. It's possible to do a similar strategy as John Morris, but Eric's magic is just so good against the golem. He cannot handle it. Now, if you feel like that's cheating, here's a more traditional way to defeat the golem. Just like with John, we can use our up axe attack whenever we're going down on the platform to deal some damage to the body. But as Eric, we really need to focus on getting rid of a lot of the body segments before the boss will drop down low enough for us to hit it. Now, if you're using the axe, you'll be able to hit it with the axe when the body is not too low, but you'll still want to take out at least a few segments. So jump and keep attacking the body until it gets low enough for you to attack it with your upward angled attack. So you can hold up and to the right when you do an attack from the ground, and that should reach the boss's head whenever you've shrunk it down small enough. Whenever the boss gets small, it will gain the jumping attack, so if you see the small boss jump up into the air, you want to jump before it lands so you don't get launched up into the sky. Whether you prefer spamming your magic or using the traditional spear method, either way should work just fine, and that's it for stage number 2. From here, we'll grab our password again, and then we'll be on to the Leaning Tower of Pisa. We did take a shortcut as Eric in stage 1, but here in stage 3, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, there are legitimate branching paths, and we will take a different route through this stage as Eric. You might think that Eric would be ill-equipped to handle the harpies because he can't angle his attacks upward when jumping, but attacking them from the ground works quite well. So whenever the harpies get close, attack upwards at an angle, and you should be able to pick them right out of the air. Remember that they're not going to stop spawning, so you do need to keep pushing your way to the right to get through this area. Look out for the Minotaur that picks up a pillar. You can hit it from the platform behind, and that should keep you safe. And attack this Minotaur from far away as well. As Eric, you can use a super jump to get up on the top of that structure, but there's nothing hidden up there for you to find. Same thing over here. You can use a super jump to get on top of this structure, but there's just nothing up there. It would be cool if they actually hid some items for Eric to find, since that's a spot that would be difficult for John to reach, but that's just not how the game was designed. We got a little bit surrounded by enemies there, but we were able to work our way out of it, and that will bring us over here to stage 3-2. This peeping eye can be kind of annoying. You want to get on the stairs and don't go high enough so that you activate that bone pillar. Try to stay below where its fireballs are and get rid of the peeping eye before continuing upwards. When you see the top, that's where you want to jump, and that will land you down here where the invincibility crystal is. And then we can quickly climb the stairs while invincible so that we can get to this spot, get rid of the bone pillar there, and then we'll head over to the left where we can find a blue gem. Remember to hold up on the control pad when you're jumping towards stairs so that you actually stick to them. If you don't hold up or up in some diagonal direction, you could fall through the stairs and you may end up falling to your death. This is where the branching paths are. In this room, we're going to use our super jump so that we'll be able to ascend through the ledges. However, you might be wondering, well, what happens if we take the lower exit? You won't be able to swing across without a whip, and Eric does not have one, so you can just go back into this room. It will make the candles respawn, which is nice, so you can actually go back and forth into this room as many times as you want to if you're interested in farming items. You'll just have to deal with all the harpies in here, so it's not really the best place to do that. Charge up your jump by holding down and then pressing the jump button while you're still crouched. You'll be able to deal some damage to the harpies when you jump through them, but it may not be enough to kill the harpies, so you'll want to poke them with your spear to get them out of your way. The upper exit takes us directly to the Bone Dragon mini-boss. And as Eric, the Bone Dragon is very easy. If you stand in this spot and you attack up and at an angle, his fire won't reach you, and he'll never get you here. So just don't walk too far to the right and stay at this spot, and you'll be able to easily get rid of the bone dragon without taking any damage. And that's fairly important here in the Leaning Tower of Pisa, because if you recall, there is no wall meat in this stage. If you are low on health, you may want to collect the 1-up in this area and then just let yourself die so that your health will be refilled and you'll be able to climb up through here and collect the 1-up again, so it won't negatively affect the number of lives you have. That's the only really good way to refill your health in this stage. Also, don't forget when you're climbing here that if you get behind and you end up way down at the bottom, you could use Eric's super jump technique. So that's a good way to get back into it, but if you stay high up on the screen, you shouldn't have to do that at all. So just keep working your way to the top, stay on the highest platforms possible, don't forget about the 1-up on the right side, and that will bring us to the mummy room. This room feels like a bit of a palate cleanser between two intense climbing sections. So just chip your way through the mummies, attack the bandages that they throw at you, and when possible, attack them from below. So we'll get rid of that mummy, we'll climb up here, we'll take this one out from down here where it won't be able to reach us, and we can grab a boomerang here if we want it, although there's going to be an axe over on the right side, which is probably preferable against the gargoyles that we're about to encounter. At the top of these stairs, it's time for everyone's favorite platform jumping section. At first, the platforms head to the left, so you just need to keep hopping that way. Whenever you see the gargoyles stop and start moving towards you, that's when you want to stop and attack them with your spear. And don't jump off the left side of the platforms. Whenever they get here, they'll start moving upwards. Now you want to get in the middle, and we're going to use our super jump. So wait on a platform, charging up until you get to about the middle of the screen, and then you can jump up to a higher platform. While you're super jumping, you'll also damage any gargoyles that you go through, so this should keep you safe. If you see a gargoyle start to attack, let off a super jump when you're in that vertical section. And then we just need to start making our way to the right. Be careful not to get knocked backwards here. Whenever you see a gargoyle stop, that's when you're going to hit it with the spear. And you should only have to get rid of 2 or 3 gargoyles to get yourself to the top. So we should be at the top after this third one, and we'll be able to quickly make it to the gargoyle's roost. I think this next boss is a little bit easier as Eric because you don't have to jump around as much. When the gargoyle reaches the top of the screen, you can attack upward and you may be able to hit it. And as it flies by to do the tail whip attack, you can attack upward and hit it then as well. When it's throwing the rocks at you, you'll want to jump when you're standing near the side and you'll be able to just attack in midair to hit the gargoyle. And try to catch it with a few upward strokes when it's flying above you. That way you won't have to hit it as many times when it's throwing the rocks. And that's going to bring us to phase 3 of the fight, where it tries to drop down on top of you. As soon as it reaches the top of the screen, you can hit it with one more upward attack, and then you're just going to spear right into the gargoyle as it drops in front of you, moving to get out of the way. And that's it. We've completed the Leaning Tower of Pisa. We'll collect our red crystal, and we'll move on to stage number 4. We know that stage 4 is the Munitions factory in Germany, but was that the most interesting location they could have chosen in Germany? The Leaning Tower of Pisa and the palace at Versailles were good picks from Italy and France. What about the Black Forest in Germany? I think that could have been a great location for some Castlevania action. A mysterious forest sounds like it would be a lot better than some kind of generic factory, but maybe that's just me. As stage 4 begins, we're going to keep working our way to the right, That will help us avoid the bones that are being thrown from behind the fence. And we just need to make sure that we spear our way through the skeletons that pop out of the garbage cans. So work your way across, and when you get to the end, send that last garbage can skeleton back to Sesame Street and go into the factory. Gotta kill the skeletons twice in here, so don't forget that. They will get back up after the first time they go down. And it's much easier to get the one up here as Eric, because you can just take this enemy out, crouch down on this platform, and use your super jump to get up here. Then you just need to jump over the wall on the left side and you'll be able to collect the one up. Sadly, you won't be able to get the other one up in the next section, but at least you'll be able to collect this one with minimal effort. Clear this skeleton from below before jumping up to get the wall meat, and don't worry about that space between the two conveyor belts. You can just walk right over that gap. You won't fall in. We'll head down the stairs, and at the bottom we know there's a skeleton spinning a morning star, so just wait for it to finish, head down the steps, let it do its thing, get in there and attack it 3 times to knock it out. Then we'll head through the door and go on to the next part. Once the door finishes closing, get ready to attack a skeleton that approaches with a shield, and then you want to head up the steps where you'll find an axe, and I do recommend grabbing the axe. We are going to use it. The first 2 conveyor belts push you to the right, but the third one pushes you to the left, so as soon as you land on it, you want to do a quick jump to the right. Watch out for another skeleton that approaches from behind, and use an axe to hit this skeleton before jumping over and finishing him off. I'm going to attempt the piston zip again. You want to stand in front of these candles, jump to the right when the piston is just across the platform at the bottom, and you're going to throw an axe and then tap and hold to the left. If you do it correctly, you can zip all the way to the top of the room. It's tough to do, but once you figure it out, it's a fun shortcut. Watch out for the Medusa heads as you climb this large vertical area. There are some definite advantages to being Eric in here. We can avoid platforming on the moving gears, and that will make getting through this a good bit easier. So you can see there's a gear over to the right, but you can skip it by doing a super jump up to this platform. It's not that difficult to climb on the gears, but if you don't have to, why would you? Over here, we'll climb up the stairs again, and at the top, we're going to be able to skip a few more gears using Eric's jump technique. So just keep working your way over to the left, climb up the steps here, and you'll see a smaller gear and a larger one. And we can jump up through this platform, and then if we go all the way to the left, we can super jump up to the top where the stairs are. If you really want an axe, you can collect one over there, but you should probably just skip it because there's a candle in this room that's very easy for you to collect. This is also another one of those places where if you go back down the stairs, you can make the candles respawn. So if you ever need to power yourself up, you can just go back up and down the stairs as much as you need to collect more gems. Eric's super jump can certainly help us navigate these scale lifts. You want to stand on the left side of a scale lift so that the right side goes up, but if you ever get stuck at the bottom of the right side of one of these scale lifts, your super jump could help you get out of it. So stand on the left for a while to raise the right side of the scale lifts, jump across, and make your way over to this door, which you can open by using the scale lift above it. And that brings us once again to Frankenstein's monster. We'll wait for Frank to do his first spinning whip attack, and then if you get over onto this platform, you can just work him over with your spear. When you get into this room, if you do 3 quick spear thrusts and then walk to the right, it's possible to actually jump through the first wheel of death. That trick is extremely dangerous, but if you want to try it out, it is possible to perform. The reason that trick works is because the wheel is not actually solid. It appears to be solid, but the hitbox is actually smaller than the wheel itself. Still, if you touch the hitbox, you'll take a ton of damage, so do that trick at your own risk. And now for a very dangerous platforming section. You need to be extra careful not to die here because there are not a lot of gems to collect, yet you'll really want to use your sub-weapons to get rid of these skeletons before you have to jump on the platforms they're standing on. If you get bumped by one of these skeletons, you could get knocked into the instant death pit below, especially the very last skeleton. That one is the trickiest of all. For this one, you want to hop up and hit it a couple times, and this is that last skeleton. If you have enough gems, I recommend using your up boomerang attack whenever you get close to the skeleton. You should be able to damage it from far away. And this small room leads to the boss. It's time to take on the Gear Steamer. We'll start by jumping to attack the vulnerable orb in the center of the boss. Hit it 3 times and let it jump over your head, and when it lands on the left, jump and hit it 3 more times, which should make it spin around and head back to the right. Now whenever we see an opening, we won't have to jump to attack the boss anymore, so it's down on our level now. Move away from the gears if it lobs them towards you, and if it charges at you like that, you want to duck down and spear it to disrupt the attack. When the boss gets close to death, it will spread itself out. Watch for it to land from a jump, hit the orb in the center twice, then back away to avoid a counterattack. Watch for it to land again, and get in there for a few last hits. Looks like one more should do it. We just need to look for an opening, and there it is. The Gear Steamer is history. We'll recycle its parts, and then we'll be able to collect our red orb, which will take us on to the next stage. And there it is. We hopped up to the higher platform, grabbed our orb, and we're finished with Stage 4. Stage 5, Versailles Palace, is a real place. It's right outside of Paris, and it is possible to take tours of it even today. So if you're ever in the area, you might want to check it out. The outside garden area is a little bit more difficult as Eric because there are numerous enemies that are high up on the screen, and they're a little bit harder to hit with your spear. Over here, you want to angle and attack up to get rid of that first tendril, then stand on this platform and angle and attack up into the rows or jump and attack it. You can then jump and attack downwards to get rid of the tendril on the ground. Over here, it's tough to get through this pollen without touching it, so you may just want to allow your controls to be reversed. You won't take damage, just be ready to push left when you mean to go right and right when you mean to go left. As you can see, Eric's super jump is able to damage the roses, but it's kind of a slow way to clear them, so I recommend just taking the pollen and making your way to the right. Make sure to clear out those tendrils that appear in the air, and when you get over here to the blood fountain, remember that these skeletons will keep coming back to life after you kill them. You can use a super jump to get onto the upper platforms, and when you get to the end of this section, make sure that you have the boomerang so that you can activate this enemy, then jump back, let it swing towards you and then stop, and you can jump across where you can hit it safely. We'll use a boomerang to start up this enemy as well, and you want to stand all the way back here to attack it. Don't get any closer than that. Hit this guy with your spear and go all the way back to near where the previous enemy was, and just keep trying to hit it from this position. It's a little bit slow going, but it's safe, and you definitely don't want to take any damage here because you won't find any wall meat in this stage. If you were playing as John, you'd be able to find some succulent wall meat in this stage, but as Eric, There are branching paths here once again, and this time Eric's route is meatless. Keep your eyes open for the chandeliers here in the Hall of Mirrors, and the Hall of Mirrors is a real part of the Palace of Versailles. It doesn't look exactly like this, but I do think the developers managed to capture the vibe. Try to use the chandeliers to get rid of the axe knights when you can, and when you can't, just crouch down in front of them and rapidly attack with your spear. In most cases, you're going to want to pick up the boomerang so that you can use it on the enemy with a sword at the end of this hallway, but we should have probably kept our ultimate magic. That would have worked a bit better. You can hold up and use your boomerang attack here to take out that enemy, and a couple of those should get you there, and then we'll come to this room with the bone pillars, and if you stand right here under the third window, you can take them out 2 bone pillars at a time. This small chapel is where the branching paths are. If you take the door at the bottom, you'll have to turn back around. You won't be able to get across that gap. So instead, we're going to use Eric's super jump ability to climb up the platforms in this room so we can take an alternate exit at the top. It would be a good idea to get rid of these laser eye monsters before you jump up onto the higher platforms. You can duck under some of them, like this one, but try not to get hit by any lasers. They do deal a decent amount of damage. So we'll poke that guy right in the eyeball. We'll head back over here on the left side to collect a few more candles. That is certainly optional. And we'll just keep working our way to the top of this area by using our super jump. Once you get to the top, you'll take this exit over on the right side, and that's going to take us to an all new area that we can only access as Eric. And wouldn't you know it, there's more of those harpies up here, and this time they drop enemies on us? Wow, that's just what we wanted. Luckily, there's no pits to fall into in this area, so you just want to keep constantly moving to the right. Try not to stop very often unless you need to turn around to hit an enemy that's sneaking up behind you. But for the most part, if you just keep working your way to the right, you should be able to get away from those harpies. And that's going to take us to the top of the spiral stair area. This time, instead of climbing up, we just need to work our way down, which is certainly easier. Just head over to the right side and keep dropping down tier after tier until you reach this level. If you want to collect more candles, you can go down to the bottom and get the ones that John would usually collect, but then you have to climb up the stairs and do all of that, so you might want to just go through the door on the right side. Easy boss time. You just want to rush this guy, crouch down, and attack him in the shins with your spear. Rapidly attack him, and whenever he tries to punch you, it should go right over your head. He may have a chance to jump. If he does, don't let him land on you, and as soon as he lands, resume your attack. We are very close to the end of this stage, but we still have to defeat the silhouettes, which are easily the most difficult mid-level boss in the entire game, so make sure to conserve your health for that. You can attack this hammer knight from down below, that's mostly safe, and we could do the same thing to this one. Just stay down here and keep spearing, and that guy should walk right into your attack. Remember, when you see this small platform, we need to jump over the wheelchair knight, and then wait for it to come up from behind and attack to the left a few times to get rid of him. Duck underneath the gun, unlike what I just did there, and you should be able to clear that guy, and then it's time for the boss. The most important thing against this boss is getting rid of those energy balls. The only way to damage the boss is to hit the pillar in the middle of the room that appears whenever the faces fade away, but it's more important to make sure that you're getting rid of those energy balls. Stand on the second full tile on the left side, hit the first 2 energy balls, attack the third one up and at an angle, and then get right on top of the pillar and attack upwards, which should damage the boss and hopefully clear out the last energy ball. Then get back on the second tile on the left side and repeat the process. If you miss any energy balls, make sure to get rid of them whenever the faces fade away. You'll have an opportunity to get rid of energy balls instead of trying to deal damage. So that's what you should do if there are stray energy balls on the screen. In this area, make sure to grab an axe because we're about to fight a flying boss. And here is the true boss of Versailles Palace, the Princess of Moss. Start by spearing diagonally on the right side and keep attacking the princess until she transforms into the moth. Then we're going to stay over here on the right side and keep attacking up in the air with our spear. This will hopefully hit the moth as it passes overhead. The strategy from here is to try to trap the moth on one of the sides. If you go near the platform on the side of the room, you can just keep attacking upwards, and that will hit the moth as it tries to escape the side. Don't forget that you can use your axes. The axes are a great way to hit flying enemies and are very good when the moth is trying to drop eggs on you. And after a little while, you should be able to set that moth ablaze, and it will be time to collect our 5th red crystal, and we'll be on to the final stage. They call that boss the Princess of Moss, but I think the Princess of Moth would have been more appropriate. This will be our final password. You'll want to jot that one down, and hopefully you have a lot of lives and continues remaining, because it's time for the Castle Proserpina. This is Dracula's lair. Start out by working your way across this rickety old bridge, taking out the ravens as they start to fly, and whenever you see the Medusa heads, remember you want to duck underneath their fireballs. You can attack the Medusa heads and kill them here, but they explode violently, and that can damage you, so it's actually a lot safer to just duck underneath those fireballs. There are no enemies at the beginning of the Hall of Illusion, so try to get used to the fact that there's a weird distortion in the middle of the screen, and keep your eyes on Eric's feet. Once you get over to the spot where you'll find the 1-up, that's when the enemies start spawning, so right here. Let this Medusa head go around you, and spear directly upward at the end of that platform to collect the extra life. You'll certainly want to make sure you get that extra life, because I cannot tell you how many times I have died in this room by getting knocked off of a platform by a Medusa head, or just mistiming a jump because of the distortion in the middle. So if you get that 1-up, at least it will give you an extra chance to get through here. At the very end, hop across, hit that magic mirror to clear out any Medusas in your way, and that will bring you here to the upside down. Make sure you don't lose the stairs when you're jumping on them here in the upside down. You need to press down to make sure that you stick to them. And then we need to navigate this section. This is not easy to do. Just keep moving to the right and try to avoid those enemies. And once you get over here, you're a lot more safe. You can hold up so that you can crouch down and get rid of that Axe Knight, and then make your way into the long hall. You definitely don't want to die in that upside down section. You'll get sent all the way back to the Hall of Illusion, which is extremely frustrating. In this room, you're listening for the clanking armor. It will tell you which side that it's coming from, and it will alert you to its presence. As soon as you hear it, you just want to stop, turn around if you have to, and attack the monster before you move on. Collect the candles if you want, but you'll have an opportunity to go up and down a stairway in the next section to power yourself up, so it's not that critical that you collect everything. Outside of the long hall, we'll encounter our first boss here in the Castle Proserpina. It's time for the battle with death. And we should know by now that Death is a boss gauntlet, so definitely make sure that you're powered up before challenging this guy. You need to get through all of his tarot cards in a single life. I also recommend having the axe for this battle, and we're going to wait for Death to materialize, and then we're going to be very patient so that the cards will slow down and we can choose the one that we want. You don't want to hit that 0 card too soon and release the meat early. Choose one of the bosses and get started. I like to choose the Golem first as Eric because this is one of the more difficult bosses as Eric, and I like to be able to use my gems to throw axes at this guy while I still have a decent amount of them. So use your axes if you have a good supply, and if you don't, you'll need to chip through the body so that you can bring the head down, because the head is the vulnerable part. Whenever the boss gets small enough, you'll be able to jump and attack it, or you'll be able to attack up and at an angle, and that will hit the boss. Try not to take too much damage here, although if you do have the meat card available that you can use by hitting the 0 card when fighting Death. Do note that if you're playing on expert mode, there is no 0 card, so you'll have to be able to finish all 3 bosses without it, and if you're playing on easy mode, there are 2 0 cards, so you'll have 2 opportunities to refill your health. If you hit one of the V cards, the Grim Reaper will throw a fireball at you, and that's easy to avoid by just continuously moving, so just make sure that you don't stop moving, and the fireball should miss you. The Gargoyle is a little bit easier as Eric. You should be able to score 2 hits early on before it even settles in on the left side and starts throwing rocks at you. So if you're quick enough, it may not throw a single rock. Hit it once when it tries to do the tail whip, jump up and hit it again here, and it should quickly accelerate to the 3rd phase. As soon as it gets to the top of the screen, attack it again. Try not to let it land on you, but if you just keep spearing upwards, you'll probably score the hits that you need, and then it'll be back to Death to pick another card. There's only 3 cards left, and one of them is the 0 that gives us health back, so there's only one more boss to fight. We want to hit that card that's numbered 4 so that we can face the Gear Steamer, and that's where we're going now. The Gear Steamer always starts over on the right side, so position yourself near that X in the background and get ready to start jumping and attacking. You should be able to get 3 hits in before it jumps to the left side, and then if you can get 3 more, you'll accelerate it right here into the 2nd phase. Let it run across the bottom, you can climb up across the top to get away from it, and we're just going to attack on the level until it expands like that, which is the final phase of the fight. We'll hit it a couple times, we'll let it spin its arms, and then it's going to jump again, and we'll hit it a few more times, and if we need to, we could finish it with an axe, but we were able to get the last spear hit in there, so no need on that. Assuming that we don't get killed by Death's fireball card, we're in good shape here. If you're able to clear all of the cards, that is a checkpoint, so even if you die facing the boss itself, you'll be able to come back to it if you have lives left. Death is a little bit harder to fight as Eric because sometimes he flies higher than your spear can reach. Try to get him 1 hit as soon as he starts in the middle. You can do a jump whenever he does that charging attack, so your super jump will damage him and help you avoid it. And whenever he throws his scythe, that's your opportunity to get a lot of hits in without touching the boss itself. So don't let him suck you into his body, just get close enough to spear him a bunch of times, and you should be able to finish off Death, no problem. I always feel a little bit of relief after defeating Death. The next boss, Elizabeth Bartley, is actually on the easier side, so we just need to get rid of her, and then it will be time to fight Dracula. If you need to go up and down these stairs to power yourself up or collect more gems, make sure to do that. And then make your way to the right, where it will be time to face the Medusa form of the Countess. As soon as she appears on the right side, get close, crouch down, and start spearing. If you're close enough, the crisscrossing fireballs will miss you, and you'll also crouch under the fire-breathing attack. Use a super jump whenever she does the tail whip, and you'll easily avoid it. Now back up a bit and keep spearing her as she starts moving towards you, and then we can crouch down and continue our spear attack. Remember, after the fire-breathing attack, that's when you're going to charge up a super jump to avoid the tail whip. A few more pokes should do it, and that's going to bring us to the next form of the boss. Elizabeth Bartley's human form is even easier to defeat. She'll appear in the middle of the room and summon some orbs, then she'll teleport down to the ground level. Walk towards her, crouch down and hit her with your spear, and stay crouched down until the fireball goes over your head and she fully disappears from her teleportation. Then walk over to the other side of the room and hit her again. Each time you hit her, one of her orbs will disappear, and if you can clear an entire set of orbs, you'll actually be able to damage the boss. If you don't get all of the orbs and she reappears in the middle of the room, the orbs will explode, likely damaging you, and no damage will be done to the boss. Once you know what to do, Elizabeth Bartley is pretty easy to defeat here on normal mode, but if you're playing on expert mode, sometimes she teleports away so quickly that it seems nearly impossible to get rid of all of the orbs. Try not to get frustrated if you're playing on expert mode, just keep attacking her and moving side to side across the screen, and eventually you should be able to clear enough orbs to deal damage. As Eric, if you mess up and leave one of the orbs, if you charge up a super jump as the orb explodes, you can jump into the air and potentially avoid any damage that the orb could have caused you. So your super jump can get you out of a jam when you're playing as Eric. Honestly, the biggest challenge in normal mode is just not losing your concentration. This boss is a very slow, plodding fight, and you just need to make sure that you keep doing the pattern and you don't mess it up. So just stick with the pattern. You want to walk over to that T-shaped imprint on the floor each time, so that's how you'll know that you've gone far enough to be able to crouch down and actually hit with your spear. Although if you notice you're too far away, just duck under the fireball and then move a little bit closer. Usually that will be okay. Sometimes if you do that though, you'll miss, and that's how you'll end up with an orb exploding. But we were able to finish the boss off here, and she'll disappear like a mysterious Jedi, leaving only her robe behind. From here, there is very little left to do. We'll make our way through the next room, and then it will be time to take on Dracula. Collect as many items as you want in this room, but in the next area you'll have the opportunity to go up and down a stairway again, and you can collect as many gems as you want. There's even a nice big blue gem worth 5 at the top of the stairs, which you can farm as much as you need to. Do not fight Dracula unless you have the full range of your weapon. At least get that second crest before moving forward. I also recommend picking up the axe if you don't already have it. And without further ado, here he is, Count Dracula. To fight Dracula's first form, you just want to get in front of the pillar of light wherever it appears, and whenever Dracula materializes, as soon as you see his red hair, that's when you want to jump and hit him in the face with your spear. So we're going to jump, hit him in the face with your spear, hold down the attack button so that you'll deal a bit more damage, and you'll get rid of any projectiles that he fires at you. I do recommend staying away from him when he materializes on the far right side of the screen. For some reason, I always take damage whenever he pops up over there, so just stay on the left and you'll be much safer. When he appears in any other position, we're just going to keep doing the same pattern. Wait until you see that red hair, jump and attack him in the face. So we'll head over here to the left. There's the hair, jump and attack. And it's going to take just a few more hits to get rid of this first form, but we do want to try to conserve our health because there are 2 more forms of the boss after this. 1 more hit should do it, but don't mess it up. And there we go, Dracula will move to the center of the room and he'll transform into the flying spirit form. Stand directly below him so you can get in an up thrust as soon as he materializes, and then he always flies over to the right side of the screen where you'll be able to hit him once low to the ground, and then when he releases some fireballs you can get right underneath him and keep stabbing. And that will give us the 3rd form. The 3rd form is quite easy as Eric. We could use essentially the same strategy that we used as John. Jump over, attack him to push him to the left side of the screen, and then run over to the right corner to avoid his projectiles. But there's another thing that you can do as Eric. This is pretty easy, so you might want to take advantage of it, but if you're brave, you can push him over onto the left side, then get directly underneath him and just start attacking upwards. So this is what it looks like. Just get right under him and just start hammering him, and he'll get stuck over here on the left side of the screen. You can keep doing this until he turns white. Once he turns white, you want to stay away from him and hit him when he lands with your spear, or just try to stay as far away as possible and hit him from afar with your axes. Don't forget you have those axes. You're not going to have any use for them after this. With a low-pitched moan, Dracula's demon form takes its last breath. As the sun rises, we'll be able to collect our final red crystal, sealing Dracula away for now. And that's it. We've done it. We've beaten Castlevania Bloodlines. All we can do now is sit back, relax, and enjoy the cheesy ending. Eric's normal ending looks a lot like John's. We see the castle crumble in a cloud of dust, and then we get a message that indicates that our mission was a success. This time it says, "Thus Eric has fulfilled his destiny as a vampire hunter," and it also reveals that his hair is strikingly blonde instead of being green or however it seems to appear in the game. But what about those expert mode endings? Well, let's take a look at the expert mode ending for John first. Dracula is not that much harder to defeat on expert mode, he just deals more damage whenever he hits you. And so you would use the exact same strategy that we used on normal to defeat him. What we're really concerned about here is the ending. How is the ending different on expert mode? We'll grab our last red gem and then we'll check it out. Fun fact, John Morris is known as Johnny Morris in the Japanese version. I'm not sure why they decided to change that. They changed almost nothing else aside from the bump in difficulty. Now, whenever you see this, you might think that you got cheated. This looks like the exact same ending we already saw. Why did we play all the way through the expert mode to see the exact same thing? Maybe they changed the message that appears and it doesn't say something like the resurrection of Dracula has been averted? Nope, definitely didn't change that. But they did add this extra scene. In this special edition, we find out that the blood of the vampire hunters still courses through his veins. Well, I sure hope that was worth it. Before we roll the credits, there's still one more ending that we haven't seen yet. Eric's ending on Expert. You can do that same strategy where you trap Dracula on the left side in Expert mode. That will still work. And the axes are still a great way to take care of this very last attack. So throw a few axes his way and watch as he fades out of existence. We'll wait for the sun to come up and then we'll grab our last red orb one more time. And you're not going to be surprised to find out that the beginning of Eric's Expert mode ending is going to look a lot like his normal mode one. But just like with John, there's going to be one more additional bonus scene. So stay tuned for that. It's nice of the game to refill our health even though there's no more game to play. And then we'll watch as the castle collapses one more time. I'd still like to know why he has blonde hair in these cutscenes when he has green hair in the game. Did it magically change after defeating Dracula? Maybe. So we know that Eric has fulfilled his destiny as a vampire hunter, but what else? What more is there to say? Now he must venture forth into greater unknowns. This scene does look cool, but really doesn't do a whole lot to further the story. And what's going on with his spear in the background? Why is it illuminated in a pillar of light? Well, I guess there are some things that we'll never find out. It's time to roll the credits. You'll notice that the programmer is listed as MK1 here, and that's an alias for Yamamura. So if you see MK1 in the credits of another game, you'll know that that's probably the same guy. It's interesting that a lot of the people in the credits used their real names, but Yamamura still used his MK1 alias. I'd love to know why he did that. Maybe he felt that he had already built up a reputation with that MK1 alias, and people wouldn't know who he was if he used his real name. For a Castlevania spin-off, this is a pretty good game. It's not very long, but it does take the series in some new directions. Now you may think that as a spin-off title, Konami wouldn't do much with the characters that were established in this game, but many years later on the Nintendo DS, the Castlevania Bloodlines story was continued with Castlevania Portrait of Ruin. John Morris's son, Jonathan Morris, is a playable character in Castlevania Portrait of Ruin, and Eric Lacard resurfaces as an NPC. His two daughters get turned, and you have to fight against them as bosses. Unfortunately for John Morris, it turns out that using the power of the vampire killer whip consumed a lot of his life energy. It was as if he got the Shinigami eyes in Death Note. So, unfortunately, his life was unnaturally short. I like the way the developers were able to incorporate a central character from Bram Stoker's novel into the Belmont mythology, as though he had been part of the family the entire time. I wish they would have fleshed out Eric's story a little bit more, but there wasn't as much series mythology built behind a character that uses a spear, so it does make sense to start him a little bit from scratch. Well, I hope this video was able to help you finally beat Castlevania Bloodlines, putting a stop to Elizabeth Bartley's evil plans. If it did, make sure to give it a like, and make sure to subscribe for more videos. Because it's only a matter of time before Dracula is resurrected again, and that's why we'll be back again next week with another video game you can beat. Thanks for watching.